Well, hello again. This is the Pennsylvania Clinical Network podcast, where we feature our network's talent, resources, and the positive outcomes they yield every day at the PA Clinical Network. I'm Dr. John Pagan, Chair and CEO of the PACN, and your host. It's my pleasure to welcome back again Dr. Damian McHugh, Senior Vice President and Physician Liaison for Curi, a company that the PACN has partnered with this year to help our network physicians and their practice. Welcome back to the show, Dr. McHugh.
Thanks, John. What a privilege to be here again with you.
Last time when we left off, we were talking about Curi and again, the origin of the company in medical liability as a mutual in North Carolina, born out of the thoughts of the North Carolina Medical Society, and the similar path that the PA Clinical Network is walking, born out of the Pennsylvania Medical Society, to give physicians a choice in how they choose to practice medicine and maintain their independence, and how they choose to care for patients. Philosophically, we both support physicians and what they believe in. We both advocate for them, and we both want to make their lives easier and restore the joy of medicine. Yep. In addition to medical liability, though, Curi has grown in its support services to doctors. How else is your company supporting the PA Clinical Network member physicians?
That's a good question, John. In the last 5 to 6 years, Curi has consolidated its core practices of medical professional liability. But what we pride ourselves on as a company like yourself is the willingness and ability to listen to our member owners. And perhaps over the last 7 to 10 years, we saw a number of member owners who were, involved physicians, and they said, hey, when we look at your investment side of the house, we admire how prudent you are in your investing. We admire the returns that you are seeing while simultaneously very cautiously defending premium to make it available for indemnity payments. But an ever-increasing number of our physicians asked, is there any way that we can tie ourselves together on a wealth management arm? So Curi remained curious, we remained innovative, and we birthed a second arm of the company, which is called Curi Capital. Now, when I meet with my physician colleagues who aren't necessarily aware of this arm, what I say is that it's a true wealth management arm. It is registered independent advisors, about 25 folks in total, who are deeply invested in physician business and personal finance, but have also the commercial skills to manage either the wealth of yourself and myself or our fellow members, or manage some of the practice assets, especially in retirement plans for our member physicians. So that company has really grown in the last 3 to 4 years since it's been set up, and is a very proud and significant part of our company. There is also a third arm of the company. I like to say it's the third leg of a three-legged stool, and it's Curi Advisory, which was basically, again, set up in response to careful listening to the wants and needs of our member owners. And they said, we need business consulting. We need some sort of software platform that helps us in the running of our practice, in assisting us with online reputation management, and assisting us with organic growth and outreach to make our practices more successful. So Curi partnered with some other companies, and Analytics was so successful that we felt compelled to purchase the company and bring it into Curi Advisory. So with that company, along with our suite of business consulting and risk management solutions, that's basically where Curi is in terms of its range of offering at the moment. But I will tell you, John, continued innovation means that within a year, another year after that, we will be adding more as we constantly strive to help our physicians in medicine, business, and life.
That's wonderful to hear. And again, the parallel paths that we're walking, certainly the PA Clinical Network is innovating and evolving too. Again, we started with a common data backbone to link independent practices across the state and get them involved in quality programs, which they couldn't otherwise access on their own. But in the process of just dealing with physicians and the struggles they have in day-to-day life, we too, are again, you are part of our innovation, bringing you into this picture, and those support mechanisms and other key vendors and tools that we can give to our doctors to make their lives easier and the care of patients better, again, without additional burdens onto them. So I think that's again great to hear, and again, the reason that we're talking right now too. Advocacy is a key part, at least certainly, of the Pennsylvania Medical Society, our parent organization. We have a presence certainly in Harrisburg, as well as through the AMA and other connections nationally. We advocate, on legislation, anything dealing with the care of patients, where the Medical Society comes involved, and certainly that's one of the key tenets. I think, from what I understand, Curi also, not only in North Carolina, has its finger on the pulse for physician advocacy. Do you want to expound a little on that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. This is a personal interest of mine, John. When in my career back in 2011, there was another impending malpractice crisis in North Carolina, and the medical society here was cohesive, exhibited leadership, and put out the call for physicians and stakeholders to come and make their voices known, to pull together and to go spend time with our lawmakers. And I was proud that crisis actually provided another interface touch point for me and Curi to come together. Curi spent a whole lot of time, talent, and treasure pulling together medical legal minds, pulling together articulate physicians, and explaining the really the in-depths of what had been going on in the prior years, what was going on currently, and what the potential range of outcomes was with different levels of action. And I felt very proud to put on a white coat along with other doctors and show up at the legislature and show up and be counted, and then take time to individually meet with lawmakers in their offices and bring those things that are so important, so unique to physicians in leadership like you and I, which is to give bedside stories of times that matter, that shape human lives. And I found over my time that legislatures are incredibly receptive to those firsthand stories. Curi has continued to be very active in the legislative spheres in several of our states. I was with colleagues in Georgia yesterday, and they had questions about this, and we explained that our presence in their state is somewhat similar to our presence in our home state and in the Commonwealth. As you well know, and your colleagues in the network know, there have been several years of activity around this venue change.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I was about to mention that too, and yeah, I was going to ask you specifically. Certainly Curi's is aware of that and has partnered with us in terms of what to do now with the venue change. The MCARE Act of 2002, afforded that where a medical event happened would be the county or the home where the court would hear it. Right. Now the Supreme Court has ruled almost unilaterally that the case can be taken almost anywhere in the state, and what that implication might have for our Pennsylvania physicians, what they should be concerned about, and again, how Curi is partnering not only with the Medical Society but others to combat this venue assault, really.
Yeah, Curi has been involved intimately in that issue, to my knowledge, for at least the last 6 to 7 years. And I know that Curi has been a proud supporter, again, of time, talent, and treasure. Our general counsel, Jason Newton, is probably one of the greatest medical legal minds in the southeast of the states. And I know that he has had a deep passion and deep personal involvement in the issues leading up to this unfortunate Supreme Court decision in August. Jason doesn't see that as a defeat. He just accepts that as what it is, and just will continue to put forward the needs of physicians, as we understand it. The good thing that Curi is comforted by is that we already have extensive experience in the major counties in the Commonwealth. It's postulated that there will be much more activity in certain counties, compared to others as a result of this change, but we feel well prepared for that to continue to well defend our member owners, no matter where they are in your state.
Do you, and again, this is a crystal ball thing, and certainly maybe outside of our spheres of expertise as a surgeon and an ER doc, respectively. But any idea, so the venue change happened literally months ago. When do you think our doctors might see that as and the impact of that, and when would it hit their liability premiums, so to speak, to follow?
It's a great question, and you're right that with neither of us having a JD to our name, we will possibly be speaking out of turn. However, as you know, there is quite some lag in the medical legal system from a time of harm to a time of suit being filed. We know that the changes in the venue change come into effect 1/1 of this upcoming new year. I wouldn't personally expect for there to be truckloads of suits filed on 1/2 in those certain counties that are favorable. But I think there will be some lag. But from the limited amount that I've read, from leaning on my legal colleagues, I do see that there is an expected uptick at some future point. But just when that will be, John, I don't know. Simultaneous with that expectation, Curi has also been working hard at the advocacy and legislative level to look at what solutions may be feasible. Whether or not it's going to be feasible when patients present to a provider's office to actually have them sign to something that suggests, that reminds them everybody does their best. We are working in complex systems, and there has been discussion of whether or not it would be feasible to ask patients to sign that, in the event something does go wrong, we will consent to bring any action in this county where the physician is based. You and I both understand that there is pendular swings to the drivers of changes to the tort system, and this certainly will be one that overall we feel does not enhance the position of the patient.
Sure. And again, one of those other hassles or burdens that the physicians will need to face more of coming forward. So,
right.
Yeah. So again, these conversations can go on, and actually they will go on in another segment, but this wraps up our conversation for today, where we kind of talked about the other offerings that Curi has, and again how we can work together going forward in the future. And I'd like to pick up with that in our next segment. But we really appreciate your time, Dr. McHugh, and the opportunities that Curi offers our PACN physicians and all doctors in the States. I am Dr. John Pagan, the CEO of the Clinical Network and your host. Thank you for tuning in to the latest installation of the PA Clinical Network podcast. Be sure and look for the next segment of the series with Curi and Dr. McHugh shortly.